There's multiple Avengers teams, Batman and the Flash are going toe-to-toe with Gotham Girl, and Wolverine's got more stories? What's up, everybody? I'm Stan, and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail. This is Preview Picks, the show where I go over comic books coming out on Wednesday, give you an idea what they're all about, and whether there's something you need to talk to your comic book shop about. Make sure you subscribe to get more of these every single Monday. The first books that I want to talk about are independent titles. So we've got Seven to Eternity number 13 from Rick Remender and Jerome Opeña, and overall it's been one of my favorite books coming out of Image simply because Rick Remender does a really good job writing a sophisticated style of story, and then Opeña's art has just been fantastic. So if you haven't been reading it, I would suggest going back to number 1, picking up the trade, and seeing whether it's something you like or not. The other comic coming from Image I want to talk about is Sharky the Bounty Hunter number 1, which is from Mark Millar and Simone Bianchi. Overall, this is another continuation of Mark Millar releasing stuff that is associated with his Netflix properties. With the success of the Magic Order, I can't wait to see what Sharky the Bounty Hunter is all about, but I don't necessarily know if it's something I'm going to be picking up on the regular. Then over at Marvel, we get Doctor Strange number 11 from Mark Waid, as well as Return of Wolverine number 5, which concludes the Return of Wolverine saga from Charles Soule, which is stretched on for almost a year now. And to be perfectly honest with you, I have fallen off both of these series. While Jesus Saez has been doing an interesting job on the art, the storyline for Doctor Strange just wasn't really striking me that well, and Return of the Wolverine, it really got cumbersome. It got boring after you had all these different offshoots that were dealing with different aspects of Wolverine's past lives and past careers, and then finally coming into this Return of Wolverine story where we got Persephone and doing all her stuff, it became a bit too much. Give me the Uncanny X-Men with Wolverine and Cyclops, and that's going to be just enough Wolverine for me. Over on DC side, we get Aquaman number 45, which is continuing Kelly Sue DeConnick's new run on the story, and it's interesting because across the banner on that thing it says All New Aquaman, which hasn't really been there for quite some time. So I'm interested to see what Kelly Sue DeConnick can put on for a spin after Dan Abnett has been writing the book for so long. And then also over at DC, we continue the Wildstorm universe from Warren Ellis with Wildstorm number 20. Again, it's a series that I haven't really been keeping up with, but overall Warren Ellis is a great storyteller, so I can't see people going wrong with this one if you're a fan of his style. Sending it back over to Marvel, let's talk about Spider People. So we've got Miles Morales' Spider-Man, which hits issue number 3 from Saladin Ahmed, and then we have Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, issue number 3 from Tom Taylor. So they're telling two very different stories. Saladin Ahmed has been doing some solid work on other titles around the Marvel Universe, and overall, Miles Morales is everybody's favorite Spider-Man after the Into the Spider-Verse movie, which I saw and it rocked. But Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man isn't something that you should be sleeping on as well. X-23, All New Wolverine, that story from Tom Taylor was a really great expression of the Laura Kinney character, and I can't wait to see what he does with Spider-Man. Overall, it's been a very different style of storytelling compared to, say, Dan Slott, what Chip Zdarsky did on Peter Parker's Spectacular Spider-Man, or what Nick Spencer's doing with Amazing Spider-Man right now. If you're into Spider-Man, these are some pretty solid books for you to pick up. Again, over at DC, we get American Carnage number 4 from Brian Edward Hill, which is really dealing with a whole heck of a lot of racism and a bunch of other stuff that's going on in the American South. And it's not necessarily for everybody, but I know that Benny the Comic Historian's been doing some reviews for DC's Fans channel, as well as a couple other different places. It's a book that I've been meaning to pick up, it's just that I haven't had the opportunity. Maybe I'm going to be trade waiting on that one just to get everything all at once. It feels like the kind of story that you'd want to read in one sitting. And then also we have Teen Titans number 27 from Adam Glass and his team, and with the current rumors about DC, as well as the changes that are going to be going on with the cancellation of the Titans coming up in April, I'm kind of fearful for Teen Titans simply because the roster was completely revamped and the storyline of Damian Wayne is a little bit different. And I haven't been following up with it nearly as much as I should have, but overall, it's a book that feels like it should be cemented inside DC's lineup, and I hope that it's telling the story that is going to keep it there. But speaking of team books, let's go back over, and we've got the Avengers. So Avengers number 15 continues the road to the War of the Realms. So this is going to continue the storyline that's been going on from Jason Aaron as it kind of comes to a head with the Thor storyline and a variety of others around the Marvel Universe. And then we have Avengers No Road Home number 2, which is continuing the story of Avengers No Surrender. Written by Jim Zub, Al Ewing, and Mark Waid, with art by Paco Medina, the feel should be the exact same because it's the exact same creative team. And in this time, we're actually taking a bit more focus and putting it on Hercules. So with the decimation of the Olympians and Hercules coming to find his home in ruins, it is a really interesting story. You can check out episode number 1. I've got a card that I'm going to put up in the corner so that way you guys can check it out, as well as the previous No Surrender storyline, which I've got a playlist on inside my channel. But check that one out. I'm having a lot of fun with it. It might be a little bit expensive issue to issue, but hopefully the story's worth it. Speaking of a story that we hope is worth it, Batman 65 continues on with part 3 of The Price. So written by Joshua Williamson, it's the 4-part crossover that's going to be taking the Flash and Batman, putting them at odds and on the same team while they're combating Gotham Girl and this mysterious Bane-like figure that is feeding venom into corpses to reanimate them into new Gotham sidekicks for Gotham Girl. So with possible ties into Heroes in Crisis, as well as a continuation of the Bane storyline that Tom King's been working on since issue number 1, this is a book that you kind of have to read, even though it might not necessarily be what everybody's looking for right now. Also inside the Batverse is Catwoman number 8, which is written by Joelle Jones, and she's been doing a lot of really good work with Selina Kyle, and it's been one of my favorite kind of offshoot series, especially for something that's kind of a niche book, but it has been selling pretty strongly compared to a lot of other titles. Her story work is getting consistently better, and I can't wait to see how she progresses and how Selina Kyle progresses inside her own book. But dropping DC, we head back over to Marvel, and we've got Venom number 11, which continues Donny Cates' great storytelling situation with Eddie Brock and his symbiote. So between the introduction of Null, this god of the symbiotes, and a lot of stuff that's going on inside Venom's life, it's just a really good reimagining of the character and how things are moving forward with Eddie Brock, and it's really brought a lot of life and a lot of fans back to Eddie Brock's Venom, which is always a welcome addition. With great covers by Ryan Stegman and return to interior arts on occasion, it's just one of those things where you never know what Cates and Stegman are going to pull out of the hat and throw at you in terms of Venom, and I love that kind of story. Also, we have Uncanny X-Men number 12, which is going to be continuing the story of Cyclops, Wolverine, and whoever they can find for mutants as they try to reform the X-Men and come up with a solution to the current issues that are facing the X-Men today. Namely, a vaccination that's going to keep anybody from becoming a mutant, the Age of X-Man currently happening since X-Man bamfed them out into their own pocket dimension, their own pocket universe, as well as the variety of different hate groups that are focused on the dealings with mutants and the extermination of their species. So this is going to be an interesting story, and the return of Scott Summers as well as Logan, it's just really good because they've been outside of comics or written in a completely different way for quite some time. So we're going to dive into that one and see what's going on. Headed back over to DC before we talk about new number 1s, we have Naomi number 2, which is from Brian Michael Bendis, and a lot of people are going to be like, well, it's from Brian Michael Bendis, so I'm not going to read it. And you know what? I can't blame you. Naomi really tried to tie itself intrinsically into the story of Superman by adding Superman and Mongol and creating this inciting incident that really brought about the curiosity that Naomi had, and then tying her to an incident that happened X years ago. And it's kind of okay. I'm really all for strong introductions of new characters. It's just it feels like this one's going to take some time to explain where that's going. And for people that like the slow burn, Naomi number 2, Naomi in general, might be the issue for you. But for me, it's one of those things where I proceed cautiously and I'm optimistic. Also over at DC, we get Justice League number 18, and after the throwdown between Lex Luthor and Martian Manhunter, we're looking at a different future for the Justice League as well as the Legion of Doom, and with DC's initiative, the Year of the Villain, coming up, you can only imagine what's going to be coming out of Justice League in Scott Snyder's mind. I'm excited to see where this one goes. Justice League has been consistently a pretty solid book inside the DC lineup, and overall the story that they're telling is on a very grand scale. Think Michael Bay blockbuster movie type stuff every single issue. That's the idea that Snyder seems to be rolling with and has been rolling with for quite some time. But as far as I'm concerned, it's a book that I'm going to have to pick up. Now that we're on to new number 1s, we've got Hulkverines number 1 from Greg Pak, which is bringing us the team up we all hoped for. Weapon H and Hulk and Wolverine. Just jamming them together. It's a 3-part miniseries that Greg Pak's going to be writing, so hopefully it's going to be good. The cover for the book doesn't necessarily say that it's going to be good because I think Greg Land used Nicolas Cage on one of these guys, but hopefully the interior art's going to give us a little bit more to go on than that. Also continuing on with the Age of X-Men, we have Age of X-Men, the Amazing Nightcrawler number 1, which is going to deal with Kurt Wagner being a movie star and how he kind of incorporates that into his average, everyday X-Men kind of life, and how he breaks out of this mold of getting the kind of social recognition that he wants and being the kind of charismatic person that he needs to be, and how he kind of reverts back to it not necessarily making so much sense. So the Age of X-Men storylines are going to continue to debut over the course of the month, and this is just another one of the 7 that are going to be telling the story of X-Men while the Uncanny X-Men deal with Cyclops and Wolverine. So you can either get your X-Men fix over there in that little pocket dimension, or you can deal with the real world stuff that's going on in Uncanny X-Men number 12. Also at Marvel, we have Love Romances number 1, which kind of picks up on the mysteries of love in space that DC did a little while ago, and it's just going to be a bunch of romance stories that are inside comic books. And again, it's a throwback to Marvel's like 80th anniversary, where they're bringing back all these older titles to see what kind of experience they can give people in the modern era, and whether there's something that could really survive in circulation today. I do love the variant cover that's by Russell Dodderman with the whole Spider-Man and MJ and stuff like that, and I might pick it up just for that, just because I dig Dodderman, and then Spider-Man's my favorite character. But I don't necessarily know if this is for everybody. For some people, it might be a welcome addition. For some, it's just like, why the hell would I waste my money? Next, we can take a look over at DC and their Vertigo line, and High Level number 1 with art by Barnaby Bagenda is going to be coming out, and I don't necessarily know a lot about it. All I know is that Barnaby Bagenda has done some of my favorite work as far as art is concerned in the last 5-10 years, and I'm just really excited to see what he can put on the page for this. I'm going to do a little synopsis kind of thing. I think I'm going to have to do a review. I'm going to have to do a review on it because it looks like a really interesting title, and I want to let people know whether this small circulation book out of Vertigo is something that they should really be picking up. To finish off the new number 1s, we have Wolverine Infinity Watch number 1 from Gerry Duggan. So we've got Wolverine after Infinity Wars and Infinity Warps and the Return of Wolverine and all the different Wolverine stories and Uncanny X-Men, and now he's got an Infinity Gauntlet for a Wolverine Claw Glove, and it just feels unnecessary. But Gerry Duggan's been doing a really good job with a bunch of his other stories. He had a really good run on Deadpool, and overall the story of Infinity Wars has been something that was grand in scope. So now he's hopefully tying it all together and creating this kind of Infinity Wars, Infinity Warps scenario. But with Wolverine currently on Earth, dealing with Cyclops, trying to move forward with the Uncanny X-Men, having him be part of the Infinity Watch feels a little bit 90s to me, where Wolverine was an adventurer, he was an X-Man, he was on X-Force, he was basically everywhere. You had to wonder how the guy split up his week. So how Gerry Duggan does this balancing act with Wolverine, that is one hope that I really have, and one thing that I'm really looking out for. But I want to know what you guys are interested in this week. Hit me up in the comments down below, and we can start that conversation. As always, if you like what you see, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to get more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books, comic book movies, comic book TV shows and games, and anything and everything inside the world of comics.